So tell me about the Mother Mary myth, like the origin story of your band.
There's like a long version, but short version, we grew up Mormon, youngest of 11, in a Mormon cult. We like to call it a cult. Yeah, cult, high demand religion. And eventually we both left. I left at 19. Danielle was forced to get married. And then eventually we met up in New York City. Danielle moved in with me after she left her husband and left the religion, and we started making music together. MotherMary, for us as Mormons, and I think a lot of Western Christian religions, is the only example of a holy woman in the Bible. And it's like the perfect impossible expectation that you're supposed to be this person who a God impregnates her without, her
Yeah.
without her
honestly,
consent.
yeah.
And as a child, it's like a weird pedophilic story. And then she's forced to give birth to a god. I think that there's like a lot of patriarchal changes to maybe the ancient myth of her, where the language actually probably didn't say that she was a virgin. And so this impossible expectation was what we were supposed to be. We're supposed to be a virgin who gives birth to a literal god, but we can't do that. Women, like, in order to have a child, you have to have sex. Yeah. And so there's just no way to be holy as a woman in our religion. We're not in it, obviously, anymore, but in Mormonism and in many other religions. And we just wanted to reclaim that story and reflect a more like realistic, like
Dynamic.
womanhood that is more true, that it's like we're holy not despite being sexual and creative and powerful women, like we are because of that. And like BDSM meets cult religion lens, so like we're a little tongue-in-cheek. That is like our aesthetic, is like kind of dark gothy, and it's like a play on religion and like those power dynamics. And like a lot of BDSM is like a kind of a reflection of these ritualistic things that you get from religion and like turning it on its head. So like BDSM was a way for us to step into our powers.
It sounds like it was a reclamation of something that was traumatic and oppressive. And I'm guessing that's what makes what's going on with A24 in this new huge movie, Mother Mary, even more noticeable.
Absolutely. Going through this transformation that we went through of like leaving a high demand religion, we felt we're like stepping outside of this patriarchal world and we're reclaiming our power and we're creating this band ourselves. Elise taught herself how to produce music. Like it's like very female empowered and focused. And then it's so ironic to have been doing that for 10 years and then have just a huge billion dollar institution come and just be like, "Ooh, that's sellable." Yeah. Great. We'll just take that from you. I think it's going to be our life story, is fighting that, trying to reclaim our power. How do you, it's like you leave one extreme and you're just constantly in another and you're like in these circular experiences.
It's flattering that
people will put
millions of dollars and
behind
like an A-list celebrities and some artists that we really look up to, FK Twigs and Trail XCX. Like those are people that we really love and look up to. And so it's weird because in a way I'm flattered. And also I understand that like art, everything is a remix. And the only thing, like for me, if the movie had been called something else, it could have been called Mary, it could have been called Virgin Mary. The thing that really sucks for our career that we built for 10 years is that they literally named it the same name, to the extent that they're releasing an album called MotherMary Greatest Hits.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Wow. So it's not even just a movie. If it was just a movie, I think some people are like, whatever, they're a movie and you guys are music, so it's not exactly crossing over. But like they're releasing an album for the fake band called MotherMary, with Anne Hathaway, and the album's called MotherMary Greatest Hits.
They're releasing it under Anne Hathaway because they can't release it under MotherMary
because legally
we
they
already
can't.
have that name. We already have the name.
That's really interesting because actually that was my next question is what if this is all a coincidence? There's also been times where I've written something, put an idea out, and then 2 days later I realize, oh shit, someone actually got there first with a very similar take. They might think I did that, but it sounds like they were aware.
So that's the thing. Yeah, it's like I get people thinking that, and we're very like nothing is made in a vacuum. People are inspired, and also people like there's the zeitgeist. Like people just like, get ideas from similar things, and
We're not even the first artists to do this. We get that.
yeah, it's, people are like, yeah, you're copying Madonna. I'm like, guys, there's many artists who are very like sacrilegious, and we're proudly a part of that collective. That being said, let's pretend that David Lowery was living under a rock and like literally just spoke to no one, heard nothing, did no Google searches, wrote the entire movie alone, and like then came to a studio and was like, I have this thing, right? Here it is. I wrote this. I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt. That's what he did. And then he gives it to the studio. This is a job. They're not just going to name a movie something without researching. That's impossible. So there's no way anyone can argue that they did not Google MotherMary. Because if you Google MotherMary music, MotherMary band, MotherMary electropop, MotherMary pop. So when this, so we're saying, giving you the full benefit of the doubt under this, he didn't hear you guys. People are like, you're just a fucking indie band. No one's heard of you guys. Although we've toured around the world, we've played Pitchfork festivals, we've been mentioned, we've had articles featured in the Fader and Pitchfork, and we've had billboards all over LA. So let's just pretend he did not see any of that, or he didn't see us at South by Southwest. When the studio got it, they had to do their due diligence, and that is under trademark law. You are required to do your due diligence when you name a brand or something, like when you name a product. So there's really only two options. They either were like, oh shit, someone else is called MotherMary, and they're also an electropop band who also is doing sacrilegious religious imagery. So then they would have been like, shit, what do we do? They have a common law trademark, at least, because they've been doing this for so long. What are we going to do? And the only two options I can think of are, number one, they were like, oh, like they're so small, they could never after us. Like we are $1 billion company. Or I'm not saying I'm committing to this, but I'm just saying options. They actively were like, oh wow, cool idea. Let's run with this. Yeah. Let's run with these ideas and let's do that. There's one example I can think of just off the top of my head of a fictional pop star, right? Hannah Montana, fictional pop star. Her real name is Miley Cyrus. When they released music, they didn't release it under Miley Cyrus with, in parentheses, Hannah Montana. They released it under Hannah Montana. If you go to Spotify and you want to listen to Hannah Montana, you type in Hannah Montana. Guess what? They knew that they couldn't release it. That would be impossible to release music under MotherMary because we already exist. So they had to release it under Anne Hathaway in parentheses, MotherMary greatest hits. So they obviously are just getting legally just scraping around any possible issues you'd have and just hoping that, that basically
we just lay down.
That we lay down and take it.
I had my own kind of phases of experiences that I can relate to with this. I remember thinking, actually, it's great that my work is influential. I'm flattered, but give me some credit or give me an opportunity. When I'm hearing you say this, I'm almost like there could have been a cool opportunity for them to get even more indie cred and bring you on for some kind of song with Charlie XCX or FKA Twigs or do something with you.
Bummer, because they're doing like an electropop score, and that's literally what we're doing. And it could have been so cool. There's so many levels of like different collaborations we could have done, or even if them just to be like, oh, also MotherMary's doing this, like in some way, just throw us a tiny little bone. And that's what A24 got big off of, was supporting indie artists. And it sucks because we named ourselves MotherMary a little bit for the sacrilege, because we do love a little sacrilege. Yeah. But mostly because there's really deep meaning behind it, and there's whole movement. And we personally grew up in an abusive, violent, indoctrinating cult, and we personally struggled to escape said cult and to then
move into society and speak about it and put ourselves in a position where we're able to not be the subservient, the like submissive women that we were told to be, and to be empowered and to speak out and to stand up for ourselves. And that's a real experience. And that's why we are doing this. It just does feel like they've extracted the cool factor of it and like the spectacle of it, but they can't embody like what it actually means.
I am so inspired by this whole discovery about their funding that I'm reading this book. I'm like obsessed. It's like a whole deep dive I don't have time to do right now, but I'm reading this book that a lot of my followers suggested. It's called Derivative Media: How Wall Street Devours Culture. And it basically talks about how VCs are interested in investing in the culture industries because they can function as research arms for larger companies. So they can be out there finding out what is engaging, what are the kind of subcultures or creative people or culture consumers interested in watching and listening to.
I know that people want to see A24, and I did too, like want to see them as, oh, they're the underdog, and like they're out there like working with real small artists and giving directors a chance who wouldn't have got one any otherwise. And that's what the narrative has been for so long. But I think like things change really fast. And people have asked us like, aren't there good things about this so far? And of course, like we're fighters. Y'all do not know what it took to leave a cult like the way that we had to. Y'all do not know what our childhood was like or how difficult it was to leave like the brainwashing behind. We do find ways to make the most of nothing. And we have fought to even have an indie following as artists without any support from like the large corporations. We have 10 years of like fighting and touring and working a million jobs to produce our own music and everything. Everyone's asking if we do not want to sue. Like that would be excruciating and probably bury us in legal fees. We do not want to do that, but we also don't want to just roll over and be buried by this movie. And I think this is a good case study for what's happening to a ton of artists. Like we're not alone in this. This is happening all over. It's happening so much that people are getting, there's kind of like jokes about like, oh my God, everyone is just saying that like, you know, billion-dollar companies are copying me. But that is the reality of the world we're living in right now. And it's really more important than ever to stand up together in solidarity.
There is, I think, a growing awareness, and your story can be a big part of this. I think it should be, of the phenomenon of more powerful institutions that can look to the internet where art, creativity, images, stories can be more democratized and distributed freely and then take from them. So when these things happen, first of all, I think we're in like a Wild West where we're finding out right now what the implications are of that and what regulations need to come into place. But what does that tell us about the internet?
You're really correct. We're in a Wild West of IP theft. The fact that all of these companies have been taking their AI and having it listen to all of the music ever without they're being sued, but they just did it. They just did it knowing, okay, sue us, but we're going to win. We have a lot more money behind us and we'll figure it out. We're going to fight you to the death to have this work. And it's just, they've stolen and they're already creating huge artists on Spotify. Like they're able to just instantly be like, okay, send this out to this many people and boom, you have an artist who started yesterday and now has 500,000, 600,000 monthly listeners. Right. That's just one example, but it's like that's happening in every media and every medium of art. I have seen this happening. I will say some people would argue this is just the way art has always worked. And to some degree, I agree. Even as humans, we take in input, we synthesize that, and then we output. But the difference here is class. Billion-dollar companies are able to just extract from us. We're not a part of the process in any way, and then just make more money. The only way to me that this can work is if we all have some sort of basic income. Like, but even then, it's okay. Like, even if we all had a livable income, the most wealthy like extracting all of our creativity and like selling us back like dumber versions, and that becomes our whole nightmare reality. I'm like, I don't want to live. I know, but we are also like, we're able to use it as well. Is this one of those things where we're complaining? They complained about the printing press and they're like, this is going to ruin. They thought that was going to ruin society.
I'm just like, are prior structures better for artists where you're this talented person in the world and you get discovered at an open mic and you're taken into the process of having an opportunity to get your work out there by virtue of your talent because you're the only one that can do it.
I feel like somehow as things evolve, there's gonna be a counterculture and people are gonna want
more
really
human things.
Okay, so to that point, or to more the class aspect of what you were talking about, can you just take me through what you have to carry on your own as an independent artist trying to make something happen when you're dealing with the looming threat of much more powerful institutions?
It's just extremely hard being an independent musician. And the way the music industry works right now, you have to be everything. You have to be a songwriter, producer. I mix our music as well, accountant,
tour manager, agent,
graphic designer, director,
stylist,
editor, color corrector,
social media expert, and commercial maker.
Social media expert is a whole other thing.
And I don't know, I don't want this to sound like, oh, what's me, because it's like obviously a huge privilege to get to make art, and that's why we're still doing it. But I'm not gonna lie that there have been many moments where the weight, the expense, like the mental load of everything, we're just like, we can't do it.
Just alone, just trying to be an indie artist. It's scary because they could sue us. That could crush our career if we have to change our name. There's tons of examples of when artists decide to change their name for whatever reason, and then their career just ends, because when you're building a name, like that's your name recognition is like one of the most important things.
Yep.
But so there's a lot of scary things. Also, what if just the movie is so bad
that we're associated with a terrible movie, and then people run into us as a band and they're like, wow, like this band like copied that horrible like
Anne Hathaway movie.
And then the other thing that's scary is, okay, what if it blows up and it's like a major success
and it just buries
us under the shadow of like everyone's like, oh, the movie, and we're just like,
what if Anne Hathaway goes on tour as Mother-Mary?
What?
Totally. There's a risk of the way A24 is, they unroll they break that fourth wall. It's almost extra concerning. It's concerning anyway with any big studio, but they play with reality in a way.
We have a single coming out on May 1st called Set Me on Fire. When we wrote it, we were imagining like Joan of Arc, just like being
like a heretic being burned at the stake,
trying to speak the truth of.
And it's really funny because then A24's first single is called Burial. I'm loving like
the imagery, irony of the whole.
So we're releasing Set Me on Fire, which also makes me think of Phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yep. Try to burn us, try to bury us, and
we're just gonna
rise again. We're gonna resurrect.